Hello, I'm back. Penny here with a new purchase. Kind of a new purchase. Yeah, if you saw my little shorts, my little YouTube shorts yesterday, you know that I bought a Submariner LV. And I say it's sort of a new purchase because it was a trade. So I'm going to be upfront and go into all the details about this watch and what I traded for it and what I think about it and why I did it, all that good stuff. I'm going to talk about it. So, settle in. You know what I'm having. Drink of choice always, black coffee. So let's go. Let's talk about it, okay? This is first the watch. Let's talk about the watch, and then I'll get into all those other boring details if that's what you want to know. The watch. Today's Sunday. I bought this yesterday, Saturday. Okay, so this is the Submariner 16610 LV, also known as the Kermit. That's the nickname, of course. And it is a 2009. So, they ended production of this watch in 2010, and this is a 2009 version. Of course, it has the maxi dial as well as the engraved rehat, Rolex with the serial number. It has laser stitched, the laser etched crown at the 6 o'clock position. And so I didn't know a whole lot about this watch, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but I have been learning very quickly about this model and what makes it unique in the Rolex Submariner lineup. One of those things is that it has the maxi dial. So the Submariners, the 16610 Submariners with the date, that's the Submariner date, pre-ceramic, they did not have the maxi dial. I don't know if they ever ended up putting the maxi dial as a transition on some of those just all black Submariners, Submariner dates, but it was introduced in the lineup with the Kermit for the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the Submariner. Came with the maxi dial, so the lume plots are bigger on the maxi dial case, and the regular Submariner date from this era did not have that. Again, I'm not sure if they ever ended up changing that one to maxi dial, but I don't think so. But this was the first, and it was also the first time that Rolex is used green as its anniversary color. So I think, right? Like all the other green dial or green accented watches came later. So that's my little bit of Rolex history, guys, which I learned very recently and did not necessarily know that about this watch. What I did know is that I wanted a green sub. I like green. Green is my favorite color. Well, green and orange are my favorite colors. So technically, I guess this is like one of my two favorite colors, if not my favorite color. And I've always wanted a green Submariner, whether we're talking the Kermit, the Hulk, or the newest iteration, the ceramic LV, also known as the Cermit or the Starbucks or whatever silly name it has right now. I've wanted them. I like them. And so that kind of, that's sort of a little bit of why I'm attracted to the Submariner LV. Let's see. If you remember back in January when I got a Submariner, I was seeking the Submariner LV. I went to my AD. I said, please, can you get me the new green sub? And he offered me the sub 41, the no date, the 12460. So I got that instead. But in the back of my mind, of course, I still have loved and adored the LV. Again, before that even, I tried to get a Hulk before they discontinued it. Didn't have any success there. And I kind of regret not buying that on the gray market a few years back. Of course, it was basically half the price that it is now. But anyhow, it's been a long time coming to me to get a green Submariner. So I also think that because this is the anniversary piece, the 50th, it's a little bit special in the Rolex Submariner lineup. It is that first time that they use this bezel, and it is still an aluminum bezel, so it's going to age. It actually has some scratches on the bezel I got a request to do this in 1080p or 720, and I'm sorry guys, but I'm filming on an iPad, and I don't know if that's possible, but I will look into it just so you can see the resolution a lot better. But it is a beautiful green dial. It is not the ceramic Submariners, the LVs, which I have not seen in person and have only seen in pictures and videos, tends to have a lighter shade. Like the way the green is on the ceramic is not as dark as this. So this is it's not even, it's almost a hunter green, but it's not quite that dark, but it has got a lot of depth to it, and it's just beautiful. And when you hit it in natural light, you're wearing this outside, you really are kind of struck by the bezel and the maxi dial. I feel like they work really well together. But the case is, being that it's a 5-digit, it is a slimmer case and a very, very, very slim fit. I'll put it back on the wrist so that you can see. What makes this watch so special to a Rolex fan, and definitely to a Submariner fan probably. And interestingly about the bracelet, these are solid end links, no holes case, solid end links, and solid center links. The bracelet itself is solid. So unlike my Explorer 2, which has hollow center links, this is fairly solid. It feels great on the wrist. And the clasp is the classic Rolex clasp, but it also has a little thickness to it because it has that diver's extension in there. So it's a little thicker than the Explorer 2. But overall fit, guys, it is a classic fitting Rolex for me. And it's like superb, right? I had a lot of sodium yesterday, so my hand's a little bit swole or bloated, but normally I feel like this is just an incredible fit on me. So those are some of the details about the watch. How did I buy it? Maybe that's a question you would ask. I bought the watch in New York City in person. So I went there. We live a little bit of a ways from the city, so it was a whole day adventure to get there, go see some watches. I had already kind of narrowed down what I wanted to see at this particular store. They had great inventory, a lot of pre-ceramic vintage Rolex, and some new stuff too. But I really wanted to see the stuff that you can't get anymore. And it was great, being able to lay all that out and see that. I'll say a little bit more about the shopping experience, the buying experience. But this does come with box and papers. Let's see, cover that up. So it has the old warranty card, and it also came with the booklets. It's kind of cool. This one is in Spanish, and so I've never seen this before, but so you got the booklet, you've got the warranty service booklet, and it came with the box, of course. And I took a link out, so I've got the extra link. And I really wanted to get a full set with this, or at least box and papers. I think a full set or a complete set are a little bit different. You get the hang tag, you get the receipt and all of that. I did not get the hang tag. I did not get the original receipt, but I got my receipt and I got the original box and papers. And so I really wanted that. There were other Kermits that were cheaper than this, probably by a couple thousand. I mean, at least a couple thousand cheaper, but they did not come with box and papers. And because I acknowledged that I did not know that much about this watch, I really wanted it to be as complete a set as possible, just because I know people have been accused of putting a green bezel on a regular sub. And I think from what I understand, you would also have to change the dial to really make it work for this. But anyway, I wanted to make sure that the serial number matched the papers and, that it was born as an LV sub. So that was important to me. So I was looking at box and papers. This particular place had a few Kermits that did not have box and papers. And then it had this one that was complete. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to look at my notes here. I'm in a little bit, I have a back injury. So I did some exercises that were ill-advised, like kind of bending forward, doing this yoga, like downward facing dog type of position. And I knew at the time that was a little bit of an awkward position for my back because I have a couple of different back injuries. and it flared up, man, right away. So I'm not as exuberant perhaps today as I would like to be, and as I genuinely feel, you know, about having the watch. If I seem a little low key, it's just because I'm like sitting very stiffly, like trying not to aggravate my back. But I wanted to record this video because I just want to follow up to the YouTube short that I released yesterday. And, you know, I'm kind of like an old person that discovers some new technology, like, oh, I can make these little short videos. But I didn't say anything or explain any of this. So that explains, guys, hopefully why I'm a little bit rigid today, is that my back is on fire. It's on fire. Okay, so I'm trying to look at my notes without hurting my back. So now, I guess I can get into what I traded. So let's just get to that straight away. This is the watch. I liked the green sub all along. I wanted a green sub. That desire to have a green Submariner didn't go away. Okay, what did I trade for this Submariner? And what are the financials? I think at this point in the conversation, so many of you are going to say, Penny, you got hosed. Penny, why did you do that? Let's just frame this, guys, by saying it might have been a midlife crisis trade. Like, I'm going to just accept this might have been a bad financial trade, and it definitely doesn't work in my favor, I think, too much. It 100% works in the dealer's or the seller's favor, for sure. It doesn't work in my favor financially, but maybe in terms of pleasure, it will. So, okay, what did I trade? You guess. You tell me, what did I trade for the Submariner LV? I'm going to actually, because I knew I was probably going to trade something, we got our watches. I needed to have them on hand because I knew I was going to trade. So keep in mind that I have 5 watches. This is the 5th watch now, and the 4 are in this roll. So if you can guess, you can put it in the comments. What did Penny trade? I will give you a hint. I traded 2 watches. So you're already probably like, Penny, no, not a 2-for-1. Guys, bear with me. Let me defend myself, okay? So what do I still have left in the watch roll? Dun, dun, dun. Let's see if you can see. We got the Milgauss, of course. It's not going anywhere. The BLNR, the Explorer 2, and my Piguet Royal Oak. So those are the 4 that I have, and this guy here on the wrist is number 6. So that's my collection. Now, if you know my collection, you probably know what I traded then. What did I trade? I traded the Submariner 41, and I traded my Speedmaster. Now, let's get through the numbers on that and say, Penny, why? You got hosed. Let's talk about it, guys. This watch is market priced at anywhere from, let's say, $15,000 to $20,000 plus. If you have a flat 4, which this is not, you know, where that 4 is flat, you're looking at crazy numbers. I don't know, 25, 30, 40,000. The flat 4s are insane. This is not that. The flat 4s, from what I understand, are an earlier part of the production history from, let's see, I think this started in 2003, I want to say. Yeah, 2003, and it ran to 2010, so just 7 years. And the flat 4s were an earlier part of that, as well as the lime green bezels, which this is not, because this is a 2019, so it came later in the production run, has a regular 4 and has a regular green bezel. Okay, so that range on the market price for the Submariner LVs, the Kermit originals, are anywhere from 15 to, let's say, 20 of just getting, not a special one. Now, whether or not they have box and papers does matter. So you might even find one at 14. Let's say you find a really cheap one out there. It's not going to have box and papers. It's going to be maybe 14 or 15. So that's the price range, guys. Now, if you go back to my Submariner my Submariner 41, I'm going to talk about why I traded that watch, but let's just talk about the numbers for a second. And that you can find for purchase around 13, maybe 14. You know, the gray dealers or pre-owned dealers are probably selling that for anywhere from 13, the low 13s to 14s. But if you are an individual who is not a company and you're trying to get that price, 13 or 14 on your Submariner, no date, the 41 millimeter, good luck. You're not gonna, I did not get offered that amount, 13 or 14 on my Submariner 41. And that was using a couple sources because I've sold watches before to David SW. And David actually gives incredible, he gives pretty high prices, I think. And he also sells at a pretty high, higher premium, I think. But David, you know, I didn't actually ask him on that particular watch. However, my guess is it would have been somewhere around 12.5, under 13 for sure, to sell the Submariner 41 to David SW. Now, I really knew that I wanted to trade. I didn't want to cash out those two watches, get the cash, and then go buy, you know, the best watch that I could with that. That wasn't my strategy. I wanted it to be as simple as possible, and I wanted to be like a one transaction thing. Because your girl is busy, and that game of like, let me sell this and then sell that and then go find the very best example and the very best price. I don't have the patience or the time to do it in that way. So what I wanted to do was find a place where I could sell, you know, the two pieces I wanted to sell and get what I wanted for it. And the other requirement was to see it in person. And I was willing to drive in maybe a 4-hour radius. We drove all damn day yesterday, you know, to get from our part of New England all the way into New York City. You had Saturday traffic, accidents galore. It was definitely a journey, total day, you know, adventure. So those were my requirements, guys. I wanted to sell, but I wanted it to be one transaction. I wanted it to be a trade. Now let's go back to the numbers. So my offer, and then before I did the trade, I did do a little hunting to see what I could get for my Submariner 41. Crown and Caliber, for example, offered 12. I think they offered 12 as a cash out and maybe a little bit more if I was to trade it in with them for something else, but they didn't have what I wanted. I maybe would have done Crown and Caliber, but again, I wouldn't have been able to see the watches in person, which was important to me this time. So Crown and Caliber was 12. I didn't ask David SW, but let's say he could have been a little bit higher at 12.5 for my Submariner 41. Most guys, again, are probably going to assume I could have gotten more for that. I just didn't see how I could do it. So that's where the price is. Now, how much did this watch cost? This watch was around 17.4, I think. You know, box and paper, 17.4. So it's in that price range, guys, of a pre-ceramic Kermit. You know, remember I said the price range is probably from 15 to 20 right now, which is outrageous. I mean, if a few years ago, we could all live in the past and say a few years ago, that watch was 8,000 or whatever. It's not anymore. You know, it is for anywhere from maybe 15 to 20. So I'm right in the middle there at 17.4, right? And again, I can only get around 12, a little bit more for my watch. I actually ended up getting 12.3 for my Submariner 41. So that was what the final agreement price was. And then I sold the Speedy. Now, you will recall a few weeks ago, I put a video up saying, should I sell my Speedmaster? It was already on its way out the door, you know, and mentally, we have two of them, both with the 1860 through 1861 movement, and we are never wearing them at the same time. So I felt like one of our Speedies had to go, and I chose mine because hers is a little more unique. So again, the Speedy was going to be gone. Now, what could I have gotten for a Speedmaster? That's kind of where I'm a little bit unsure. Speedmasters, you know, have gone up in price because of the new one. You actually can't really find Speedmasters as cheaply as you used to. And I think my Speedmaster previous gen 1861 movements are going from anywhere from the high 4,000s to 5,000 mark. So higher than a Speedmaster has ever really sold for. So, but my offers consistently for that Speedmaster, again, between Crown and Caliber, I did ask David SW for that price. And I did ask, search around for selling the Speedy because I was going to mail that. There was no problem mailing that in the mail. I just didn't really want to do that with a Submariner 41. So, but the price range that I was offered for the Speedmaster was from 35 to 39. Now, 39 was with trade-in. So from this particular dealer, I got the 35. And it felt, again, a little bit low, but if you search for those 1861 Speedies on a bracelet, you're going to see them maybe for 47 to 48. So there's about, I don't know, a $1,500 markup if you're selling it that way. So those are the numbers, guys. I got 12.3 on my Submariner 41 plus the 3500 on my Speedmaster, and that adds up to around 15.8. Now again, this watch was still 17.4, so you do the math. I paid a little bit extra on top of that. Now, I think that's where people are going to flip out and say, Penny, you got hosed. Why on earth did you make that deal? Of course, the dealer is going to come out ahead. They're going to sell my Submariner 41, like I said, for 13 or 14. And if they hang on to it a couple months, which they might not, but in 6 months, I probably think that's going to be more, right? The Rolex's shortage, we know all about. They've even explained their shortage. So the Submariner, no date, the Submariner, original Submariner, that's probably going to fetch much, much more eventually than I sold it for. That is just the way this works. And of course the dealer came out ahead because they're going to make profits on my watches, and they probably, marked this up anyway from what they paid for. So dealer math is all in their favor. It's like gambling. It's always in the house's favor. I am not a gambler. I have no stomach for it. And I really have no stomach for flipping and trading and all of this. But what I knew, now let's get into the psychology of it. So that's the numbers, if that's what you wanted to know. Post in the comments how hosed I got on that deal. Would you have made it? Probably not. Most of you, I think, would have kept the Submariner 41. But let me get to why I sold it. That's the big part of all of this. Okay. I mentioned midlife crisis. I don't know that I'm having a midlife crisis. However, I think I just really felt like the Submariner 41 wasn't what I wanted in a Submariner. It was big. So let me show you some pictures, guys. It was big relative to this. However, if you're a dude and you have a nice sized wrist, you probably wouldn't think it was big. But let me show you, this is me at the store holding the two together, trying to really say, do I want this? And even though this is not great quality, I'm sorry about that, you could at least see a little bit on the size here. This looks like a previous gen Submariner to me, like very blocky and bulky versus the 5-digit, aesthetic, which is so sleek and slender. And now that I'm used to the bracelets, I really, really do value and appreciate this size. And every time I put the Submariner on, like anything, it takes a while to get used to the size. But I just kept feeling like the no date 41s has too much real estate. Like, not empty real estate, but it feels like it's on steroids. It's bloated to me, and I know they slimmed it down. I know they did improve it. It's better to me than the previous gen. However, my tastes are really on this side. And let me just say about the lug width being 21 millimeters, that drove me nuts. I'm sorry, but it did. The bracelet itself is so much wider, and it does taper, but it just felt clumsy almost to me. The scale of it just was not perfect. Now again, guys with bigger wrists over 7 inches, or even I'm 6 3/4, you might all appreciate these changes in size. I just genuinely did not appreciate it, and the BLNR, for example, has some of the same aesthetic with the glossy dial, but I never felt like it was inelegant on the wrist. It's not as boxy. And on my wrist, this fits beautifully, especially with the Jubilee bracelet. So I never had any delusions or fantasies of selling this, but I was constantly thinking about, why don't I trade the Submariner 41? And the catalyst for it was about a week ago, last weekend to be exact. I went out with Clayton, the Watchdog podcast guy, and we met up in person. Really cool guy, really great visit. We had an awesome time. Empress came along, and we went out to a beautiful, like, a reseller, a pre-owned watch shop with an amazing collection. And for the first time ever, I saw the Submariner no date 5-digit version. So the 14060 2-liner. And I always thought, guys, that was the no date sub for me, but I'd never seen it in person. I saw that watch and I wanted to buy it on the spot. I wanted to trade my Submariner 41, which I did not have on me because I probably would have. I wanted to instantly trade it for the 2-liner. And everybody said, think about it, sleep on it. You know, they were asking quite a bit more for that no date sub 5-digit. I probably could have bartered with them and, you know, came out a little ahead on my side with my sub. I should have, right? But then I asked the YouTube universe and gurus like Austin Daniels. I said, hey, Austin, would you make that trade for the Submariner 41 to the 2-liner? And even the 5-digit guru guy, Austin Daniels himself, Rolex fanboy #1, said no. He was like, you have the best of the best with the modern sub, and going backwards, it just, like, don't do that, just add it later. And that was fair enough. A lot of people said that, but I still couldn't get it out of my mind. And I thought, I don't actually want to add it. I don't want 2 of those same Submariners. You know, I'm not a sub person. I kind of want 1 Submariner. And I want it to be hit the sweet spot. So I thought about going back to that place and saying, screw all the advice. I'm doing it. I'm my own woman. I'm making that trade. But then I started thinking, if I do get a Submariner, another one, and trade my 41, it should be something that feels special, right? That is a unique Submariner to make that kind of backwards trade, if you will, in terms of technology. So to trade backwards, I felt like I needed to make sure that it was a sub that felt really special and unique to me. So that's why I didn't go for the 2-liner. However, that was kind of the done deal. Once I put that on my wrist and I didn't even have my sub with me, it just felt like butter. It felt like this, right? It fit like this. And that was it, guys. That clicked in my brain that as beautiful as the Submariner 41 is, that sucker shines in the light. I do like a dazzle. I like a dazzle, but it wasn't what I wanted from a sub. I wanted a more streamlined, vintage feel to my Submariner. So that is the complicated psychological reason why I decided at least a week ago that I should trade it. But even before that, every time I put it on, it wasn't exactly what my mind wanted for a Submariner. Okay, if that makes any freaking sense, that's what it was. Then to top it off, I happened to read this story, guys. This is getting to the midlife crisis part. I happened to read this beautiful forum. On the Rolex forum, it was a post called, it's under the vintage tab. If you want to go back and look at this, it's called From Father to Son. And it's the story of a Rolex Submariner 5513. And it's pages and pages and pages long. So it took like an hour to read all of this content. But it starts out with these beautiful pictures. You got to be logged into the Rolex forums, by the way, to see the pictures. But it starts out with these beautiful pictures of this 5513 Submariner. And then the guy, because it was like a watchmaker who put the pictures up, but the guy who owned the watch and got it from his father tells his story of how he got this watch, what it meant to his dad's life, all these pictures of his dad wearing it, of him wearing it, of his daughter wearing it. And guys, it just hooked me. I mean, I started to think, why do I have these Rolexes that most of them modern, right? Prior to this, I had modern, and then the 41 sub was modern. This was the only not modern one. But why do I have these that are never really going to age? The dials are not going to age. The ceramic bezels are not going to age. The cases definitely may get scratched up. But this is going to be a great example of a Rolex that's going to be like a fountain of youth. You know, a fountain of youth Rolex that will always look brand spanking new. This is it, because it's not aging. You know, it doesn't show scratches on the Jubilee as much, and you've got all these other features. It's not going to age. The Milgaus's case is already scratched to heck. So, you know, that is what it is. But with the Submariner 41 that I had, I was like, I'm never going to have a Submariner that fits my ideal of what that watch should be, whether or not I'm surfing with it or not, because I'm sure as heck not surfing with it. But you know what I mean? It's never going to have that banged up look. And that is a challenge of collecting mostly new Rolexes from the AD. It's a, you know, it is what it is. You got the best technology, you've got the best bracelets, etc. But I just thought for the Submariner, I wanted it to age, you know, a little bit more. So that brought me back to the pre-ceramics and convicted. I was convicted by that point. But after reading that story, after thinking, look, I'm old. I'm not old, but today I feel old with my back, with just aging. I'm going to age, but I want some of my watches, not all. Some of them can be beauteous for life. I want some of them to start to age with me. And I already have some battle scars. This has scars across the bezel. The dial's not going to age, but the case will. I mean, the case and the bracelet and all of this will, and the bezel will, right? So I kind of wanted a Submariner that could do that. And so that's what tipped it in my favor. And I still wasn't 100% sure I would even get a Submariner, but I knew that 41 millimeter sub wasn't the one that I wanted. So I set out to go to this place. I'm going to show you what I considered. This video is long, but I feel like there's kind of a lot to explain. I had a lot of explaining to do. So I set out to do what I did. Here's the two that went. Aw, let's have a moment of silence. But this was already gone, guys. We get two of them. And this is the one. This is the real loss here. Beautiful watch. Beautiful watch. And right there, it doesn't look big. But next to this, you really get a sense of the size difference, right? You can really get a sense of how it might fit me very differently. This damn thing looks like a sea dweller next to this. As wonderful as it is, it just wasn't it wasn't hitting on mentally for me. So the contenders, now let's talk about the good stuff that I saw there. These were the four that I narrowed it down to. And I know you can't see them well here, but I'm going to explain what they were. I could do some fancy edits and drop this picture. I'm going to drop this picture in the video. Yeah, no, I'm not going to edit, but I'll tell you what I saw and what I was considering, okay? So what I was considering was this was a regular Pepsi. So would you have made a trade for any of these guys? This was the regular Pepsi, but it was forget what are the reference numbers for the Pepsi? It was just the 5-digit non-tritium dial one. So 16, I don't want to mess it up. I think it's 16075 or something like that, or 16750, 16750. I think that's what it is. It's very similar to the Explorer 2's number. But anyway, this had box and papers. I think it was a 2004, I want to say. But it did not have a tritium dial. And I want a Pepsi very much, but I want it to have a tritium dial, I believe. So that has a little patina on it. So that was one option. The other option was a 70s, it was my birth year, 70s root beer nipple dial. And this thing, man, I can pull this off. I put this on and looked in the mirror. I was like, bam, chicka bam bam. I'm going to go back to a vintage root beer at some point. Just yesterday, it didn't feel like the move to make, to get the vintage birth year root beer. It's actually Empress's birthday this week. So it was kind of cool to think about, should we get a birth year root beer on your birthday weekend? Even though you already have a birthday watch. But we liked this a lot. It wasn't quite what I wanted to trade the sub for. So that was one contender. And then this was the real battle royale was between this and the Kermit. Which would you have gotten out of these two watches? This was a Coke, a Rolex Coke, but it is the error dial, the stick dial. So I got to explain it. If you really zoom in, you sort of can see it here, but this is a bad quality. But basically, GMT Master 2 is not Roman numeraled exactly, like the lines over the numerals of the 2s are missing on the stick dial. So apparently in the Rolex fan person universe, a Pepsi, I don't know if Pepsi's have it, but Cokes definitely have this era dial. And this was a beautiful Coke. This cherry red, this was a non-faded bezel. Maybe it was a replacement bezel. Guys, I'm not really good at knowing what's a replacement and what's not. But the cherry red on that Coke, ooh, it was tough. And it was cheaper. It was cheaper than this. I think it was 16,000. So it would have been a lot, I would have come out a lot closer to that price than a little bit that I had to kick in for this. But why did I go for this over the Coke? By the way, they were all complete sets too. So that was like, that was really appealing to me. or box and papers. The Coke was really hard to say no to, and I let Empress break the tie. I said, which do you think I should get? Should I get the green sub, or should I get the Coke? And she loves red, guys. Red's like her favorite color, so I thought she was going to choose the Coke, honestly. And the sales guy was like a subs guy, a Submariner guy. His brother is a GMT guy, so the sales guy was already really predisposed to me getting a Submariner, and went on and on and on about, basically the special subs. And, he was like, of course he's saying my 41 sub is not special. He's like, it's the latest and greatest, but it's not special, and I tend to agree with that, even though I see his bias. The thing that was special about the 41 sub at the end of the day was the fact that I got it from an AD. That feels special because of our current climate of buying watches. But I started to resent the fact that I was keeping it kind of just because I got it from the AD, and everybody's like, it's gold. You got a Rolex in retail. It's gold. Don't be a flipper penny. I'm going to address that in a second. Like, am I a flipper? But the reason I didn't choose the Coke at the end of the day was it just felt right in my mind to trade a sub for a sub. And the green sub, which I may not have a chance to get again because, who knows what happened with the prices, but it's definitely going up. Whereas Cokes, without box and papers especially, can be found. There's fewer of them out there, but they can be found. And I just didn't think that I wasn't in a GMT mindset exactly yesterday. Although most of my next Rolexes are probably going to be GMTs because that's what I love, right? I genuinely love the GMT function. So now let's get to the point of, did I backstab? Am I a backstabber? And is that why my back hurts? I'm a backstabber with the back pains. Am I disloyal to my AD by trading that? I don't know. You be the judge. You be the court and the jury, the judge and the jury on this one. I had that watch since January. I bought it at the very beginning of the year. It is now almost October. It's like, I think October starts this week. So I had it for a good 9 months. I'm, almost getting into the 10th month of owning that watch. I wore the heck out of it. It was not a safe queen. I never intended to sell it, so I wore the heck out of it, scratched it all up, played with my dogs in it, did rat hunting with my dogs, dropped it on accident into their water bowl with all this filth and grime. Like, I wore that watch. Even though I have other watches, I wore it a good deal in the 9 months that I had it. And I think if I was a flipper, if this was Penny's flipper paradise, I would have sold it in February. I bought it in January. I would have sold it right away. I didn't think I was going to sell it. I was like, I got a sub. I'm happy. That's what I wanted. But as time goes on, I originally wanted a green Submariner LV. The Kermit was my quest. And then even when I let that go, the size started to nag at me. I do feel a little uncomfortable having sold it just because of the current climate. And what if it does get back to my AD? Or what if he asks me, Penny, where's your sub? When I go in there, I'm just going to tell him. I'm not going to lie. I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm going to tell him what happened. I wanted to trade it for this. I'm sorry. It wasn't flipping, But if he sees it differently and disowns me, then that is his prerogative. I will be sad, but, I'll live to buy another day. I'm sure I'll be fine. And I'll either buy vintage stuff or I'll buy Audemars Piguet because I'm not selling that thing. So I don't know. And then I have other, AD contacts. So I don't think I stabbed my AD in the back by selling it eventually. I'm not going to, go in there and broadcast it to him. But if he asks me about it, I'll tell him. I'll own up to what I did and why I did it. So that's that. Now, will I, I'm going to service this watch. I might make a separate video because this is now a 30-minute video, 40-minute video of my explaining to do. So I will probably make a separate video, but I'm going to service this watch immediately. I want it to get the full Rolex treatment. I want to know that it's not stolen. I want a service card. I feel like I'm not complete in this journey until I get this watch serviced and get it back from servicing. So that's the next leg of the journey. I think at the end of the day, it was an okay deal financially, probably not at all. It was not at all in my favor, but I don't feel bad about it at the same time. I feel like when I look at this watch, it's the one that I prefer. The case sizing and everything. You know, I'm always a little sad selling watches, and I will cry probably about the 41 because that's just who I am. But if I really look back at it, I really didn't like the size for what it was. Not so much that the size didn't fit my wrist. It's just what I wanted mentally from a Submariner was not exactly that. And I couldn't have known it without owning it and trying it out for a while and thinking about it and trying out ones that, you know, are different. So that's it, guys. That's my story. It's a long one. I'll answer some other questions in another video probably. I'll talk about the servicing route that I'm going to go with. And maybe even how does this fit in with my collecting strategy going forward? Does getting an older Submariner now change my tastes entirely, and what will I be doing going forward? I know I said I wasn't buying any other watches, but I feel like this was not really a buy. This was a punt. This has brought in something new, but it lost, you know, I lost things from the collection. So I didn't, you know, that is what it is. And I didn't want to keep the Submariner 41 and just add other Submariners. Like, I just really didn't see the point in that, where I was a little bit less happy or comfortable with the 41. To me, it should have gone. So yes, I could have saved a couple more months. I would have been fine buying even the two-liner if they still have it. But I don't think I wanted both of those. I'm not a sub collector. So I just felt like, why should I have multiple subs to get to the one that I want or the style that I want? Now, if I genuinely switch gears and start loving the Submariners so much more, then there's room for multiples. But at the time, I was like, why keep the 41 and add more subs? I'm trying to get GMTs up in here, Daytonas, you know, Royal Oaks. Those are the ones that really, really excite me. But as for the sub, the green sub and I, we're okay. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.